Namaste Bitya. Myself JVN Neha Seni from Physiotherapy and Diagnostics, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. In this slide, I will discuss about the attachments of muscles of mastication. So, in this slide, we will cover about the classification of muscles of mastication, about the attachments of temporalis, masseter, lateral pterygoid, medial pterygoid, digastric, genioid, mylohyoid. Now, what is mastication? It is a process in which food items are held, chewed, and moved within the oral cavity in preparation for swallowing. Chewing means opening, closing, and power of stroke. So, we have classified muscles of mastication into two categories. The primary muscles, these are temporalis, masseter, lateral pterygoid, medial pterygoid. In secondary muscles, these are helping muscles and they are mylohyoid, genioid, digastric. So here we can locate the temporalis muscle, the lateral and the medial pterygoid, and the masseter. So first we discuss about the masseter. The masseter is a quadrilateral muscle which covers the lateral surface of the ramus of mandible. Its fibers are arranged in three layers. So the origin is of the superficial layer from the anterior two-thirds of the lower border of the zygomatic arch, as we can see in the diagram. This is the zygomatic arch. From the anterior two-third part, there is the origin of superficial layer of the anterior fibers of the masseter. So this is the masseter. Again, it is the largest component that arises from the anterior two-third of the lower border of the zygomatic arch. Then the deep layer. It arises from the whole of the length of the medial surface of the zygomatic arch. So this is the deep layer which is arising from the medial surface. Then the superficial fibers, they pass downwards and backwards at the angle of 45 degree and they are inserted on the lower part of the lateral surface of the ramus of mandible. So here we can see the insertion that is on the ramus of mandible. Then the middle and the deep fibers, they pass vertically downwards, and the relations of the masseter. Superficially we have the skin, platysma, rhizoireus, zygomaticus major, the parotid gland and the duct, temporal branches of the facial nerve. And to the deep of the masseter we find the temporalis muscle and the ramus of mandible. Then the nerve supply. The nerve supply for this muscle is by the mesenteric nerve, which is a branch of anterior division of the mandibular nerve. Mandibular nerve is a branch of the trigeminal nerve. Then the action of this muscle elevates the mandible to close the mouth and clenches the teeth. Then the second muscle of the mastication is temporalis. Temporalis is a fan-shaped muscle. It fills the temporal fossa. This is arrowed mark. This is the temporalis muscle. Then temporal fascia is there. Temporal fascia covers the temporalis muscle and it is a strong aponeurosis overlapped by auricularis anterior and superior muscles. These are the muscles of ear. Then the epicranial aponeurosis and the part of orbicularis oculi. This is the temporalis muscle. It arises from the floor of temporal fossa, inferior temporal line, overlying the temporal fascia of the side of the skull. So this is the insertion on the margins and the deep surface of the coronoid process and the anterior border of the ramus of mandible. In the nerve supply is same, it is by the anterior division of the mandibular nerve and the action is elevation of the mandible. The posterior fibers retract and protrude the mandible. It helps in side to side chewing movement also. So it is the sole function of the temporalis is to elevate the mandible and crush the objects between the molars and the carnivores to clench into other animals using canine teeth. So this is the elevation action of the mandible done by the temporalis muscle, and the posterior fibers draw back the mandible, and the side to side chewing movement is also done by the temporalis muscle. Then the third muscle, the principal muscle of the mastication, is the lateral pterygoid. So lateral pterygoid is just short, it is conical and it has upper and the lower heads. The upper head is small and it arises from the infratemporal surface and the crest of the greater wing of the sphenoid. So in the diagram we can see This is the greater wing of the sphenoid, and from here we have the upper head of the uh, temporalis muscle, sorry, lateral pterygoid. Then the lower head arises from the lateral surface of the lateral pterygoid plate, and this is the lateral pterygoid muscle, small upper head, and it arises from the infratemporal surface and the crest of the greater wing of the sphenoid. And in this image we can see both the heads, the upper and the lower heads, and the lower head is arising from the lateral surface of the lateral pterygoid plate. In the image we can see the lateral pterygoid plate also. This is the lateral pterygoid plate. It is again a part of sphenoid bone. Then the fibers run backwards and laterally and converge for insertion. The insertion is on the pterygoid fovea. Pterygoid fovea lies on the anterior surface of the neck of mandible, that is the neck of condyle, and the anterior margin of the articular disc and capsule of the TM joint. The insertion is posterolateral and it's slightly higher than the origin. And the nerve supply is by the mandibular nerve. The action of this muscle is depression of the mandible, that is at the time of opening of the mouth, and lateral and medial pterygoid. When these two muscles actively act at the same time, they will protrude the mandible. Protrude means bringing forward the mandible. And the left lateral pterygoid and the right medial pterygoid, when they contract simultaneously, they turn the chin to the left side as a part of grinding movement. So along with when they act both, they will act grinding movement also. So this is the combined efforts of digastric and lateral pterygoid muscle, which provides a natural jaw opening when both these muscles contract, that is the digastric and the lateral pterygoid. Then the fourth muscle is the medial pterygoid. Medial pterygoid, which is again a quadrilateral muscle and has superficial head and the large deep head. And the superficial head arises from the tuberosity of the maxilla and the adjoining bone. The red arrow over here is marking the tuberosity of the maxilla, which is giving origin to the superficial head of the medial pterygoid. And the deep head has arising from medial surface of the lateral pterygoid plate and the adjoining part of the palatine bone. So this is the deep head of the medial pterygoid and the superficial head of the medial pterygoid. And this is the medial pterygoid from the inside, and the fibers run downwards, backwards and laterally and inserted into the roughened area on the medial surface of the angle of the mandible. So adjoining part of the ramus of mandible also, and below and behind the mandibular foramen, also on the mylohyoid groove. So nerve supply is same as by the mandibular nerve, and the action is elevation of the mandible and protrusion of the mandible. Protrusion means again the bringing forward the mandible. Then we have the digastric muscle. This is the supplementary muscle, and as the name indicates, it has two bellies, that is the anterior and the posterior belly. The anterior belly arises from the digastric fossa, which we have discussed in the class of mandible. It is on the inner surface of the body, and it is inserted on the when the two bellies are united by the intermediate tendon, and this intermediate tendon is attached to the body and the greater cornu of the hyoid bone. So the insertion is on the hyoid bone with the help of the tendinous intermediate tendon structure. So here we can see the tendinous insertion on the hyoid bone of the digastric muscle. So this is the insertion. Then the anterior belly, here we can see the anterior belly of the digastric, and the posterior belly arises from the mastoid notch, which is on the temporal bone and is inserted again on the intermediate tendon, which is lying on the body and the greater cornu of the hyoid bone. Here we have summarized the digastric muscle along with its nerve supply. The posterior belly is supplied by the facial nerve, and the anterior belly is supplied by the nerve to mylohyoid. And the action of this muscle is depression of the mandible and elevation of the hyoid. Then the next is the mylohyoid muscle. So in this diagram we can see the mylohyoid making the floor of the mouth. Mylohyoid muscle is a flat triangular muscle which is lying deep to the anterior belly of the digastric, and it has two areas, two bellies, that is the right and the left mylohyoid muscles on both the sides. or the midline. They together form the floor of the mouth, and above it lies the mouth, and below it lies the neck. So the two mylohyoids form the floor of the mouth, and it arises from the mylohyoid line of the mandible. So in this diagram we can see the origin, that is, this is the mylohyoid line of the mandible on the inner surface of the body of the mandible, and insertion is on the posterior 1/4 fibers are inserting on the body of the hyoid bone, and the anterior 3/4 fibers are inserting into the median raphe, which extends from the symphysis mentae up to the hyoid bone. So the median raphe is from symphysis mentae. This is the symphysis mentae, and this is the hyoid bone, and this is the median raphe. So this is the insertion of the mylohyoid muscle, and the nerve supply is from the mylohyoid nerve, and the action is elevation of the floor of the mouth in the first stage of deglutition. Thus this muscle is helping in the deglutition, and also depression of the mandible and elevation of the hyoid bone. So here we can see the mylohyoid line from where our mylohyoid muscle is originating. This is the mylohyoid line. Then the nerve supply of this muscle is again from the mandibular nerve, which is the branch of the trigeminal nerve, that is the fifth cranial nerve. Action we have discussed, that is the raising the floor of the mouth, and in doing so it presses the tongue against the palate, and it elevates the hyoid bone during swallowing or protrusion of the tongue. Then the next we have geniohyoid muscle. Geniohyoid muscle is also an accessory muscle of the tongue, and here we can locate the geniohyoid muscle in the midline. So this is the geniohyoid in the midline. It originates from the inferior mental spines and inserted on the body of hyoid bone. Here we can see the origin, that is the inferior mental spines, and insertion is on the hyoid bone. This is the hyoid bone, and these are the inferior mental spines from which there is origin of geniohyoid muscle. The nerve supply is by the hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal nerve is the 12th cranial nerve. So remember, the hypoglossal nerve is the 12th cranial nerve, and it's supplying to your geniohyoid muscle. And the action of this muscle is elevation of the hyoid bone. It may depress the mandible when the hyoid bone is fixed. Now the masticatory muscle disorders include the myofascial pain, myositis, and myospasm. Myofascial pain was first described by Travel and Rinzel in 1952, and in 1969 Laskin also described the myofascial pain dysfunction syndrome. There is regional dull aching muscle pain, and there is presence of localized tender sites in the muscle or tendon or fascia around that muscle, and the pathogenesis of myofascial pain is not confirmed yet. So this is the distribution of the myofascial pain. Myofascial pain is referred from the temporal muscle. The reference zone of the temporal muscle includes all the maxillary teeth and upper portion of the face. There is headache, there is toothache, which are the common complaints in the myofascial pain. Then we have the myositis. In this is the disorder in which it is characterized by the inflammation of the muscle due to a spreading infection or external muscle trauma. Trauma means injury or muscle strain. Then there is trismus. Trismus is a prolonged tetanic spasm of the jaw muscles by which normal opening of the mouth is restricted. It is also known as locked jaw. So the person cannot wide open his or her mouth. There is restricted movements in the opening of the jaw. Now the questions which can be asked in your exams related to this topic are: first is write short note on temporalis muscle. Either you can get the examination write short note on masseter muscle also. So masseter is also very important muscle. And second question is can be related to your applied anatomy, like what is trismus. So this you have to mention in your exams. Then in the exercise you have to draw this diagram complete, the skull and the muscular attachments, and you have to label all these structures which are unlabeled in this diagram, and this work you should do in your files, and then revise your topic thoroughly and prepare for your exams. And this completes our topic, the masticatory muscles. Thank you.